I used to think pain made you small. Turns out pain sharpens you like a blade. Her name was Zara. We built a life that looked careful and safe weekend breakfasts. Bills split down the middle. A bookshelf full of books we never finished. I trusted her the way people trust their reflections. Automatic, unquestioning. Then one ordinary Thursday, everything she'd built with me was revealed to be theater. I found out the way most betrayals are found: ordinary, accidental, and final. A calendar notification chimed on her phone, an alarm she'd forgotten to hide. And the title was a name I didn't know, plus a place, plus a 3-letter code that meant nothing until I matched it to the receipt in the kitchen drawer. It was small evidence, the sort that can be explained away if you want to explain it away. I didn't. Something in me went very still. The first instinct was to confront, to let the thunder loose and watch her break. But I had seen the way she performed under pressure: smooth apologies, practiced confusion, tears timed to perfection. I wanted something else. I wanted certainty. I wanted a clean unraveling that left no room for reinterpretation. So I boxed up my outrage and became something I wasn't: patient. For weeks, I watched like a man studying a map. I learned her patterns, how she laughed at certain texts, which roads she chose when she lied about errands, how she left tiny things in places that made her story believable to anyone who wasn't paying close attention. I cataloged everything: times, dates, snippets of conversation, receipts, screenshots. I kept a ledger on my phone under an innocuous name, so it would be the last place she'd think to look. This was not about grand gestures. It was about building an unassailable truth. In the meantime, I changed my life in small, stubborn ways. I stopped sleeping in. Mornings became mine. I returned to the gym not to punish my body, but to clear my head. I reconnected with friends I had smothered with the intimacy of being the couple, and let new acquaintances slip into my evenings. I cleaned the apartment like someone preparing a stage for a final act only. This stage would be empty when the curtain fell. I admit, there was a darkness to my plan. Revenge is a dirty word, and rightly so, because it asks you to soil your hands to teach someone else a lesson. But I decided my revenge would be surgical, precise, and private. I didn't want to break her in public. I wanted to dismantle the safety net she had taken for granted, the net made of my trust, my silence, my willingness to cover small disappearances with plausible excuses. I wanted her to understand what it meant to live in a world where the person she'd relied on had learned her script and would no longer improvise mercy. So I started to pull threads. I made calls she would notice. I paid attention to the friends she relied on for alibis and leaned into them. I let certain things happen and then recorded them like an archivist of truths. There were moments when my restraint felt like cowardice, and moments when it felt like artistry. I walked the line between the two without blinking. The first strike was small and elegant. Zara loved the illusion of being admired. She curated her social life the way others curate art: selective, polished, always on. I introduced subtle doubt into that curation. A mutual friend received an offhand text from me, careful, casual, and the friend, bewildered, passed it along. Zara noticed the slight shift. People who had been unquestioningly on her side began to hesitate, to ask gentle, testing questions. Her smile never reached her eyes as easily after that. Then I exposed her own carelessness. I left a copy of an email on the printer with a subject line that would catch her eye. It was a fake thread, composed of truths and half-truths, showing that someone she had confided in had been careless. She pulled at it like a loose thread and unraveled a small portion of her defenses. The look on her face when she realized something small had been seen by someone else, someone she trusted, was the look of a person learning they were not as invisible as they thought. I didn't humiliate her on social media. I didn't call her colleagues or broadcast her failures. Vindictiveness without purpose is just noise. My aim was to make her feel what I had felt, not for the satisfaction of watching her suffer, but so that she could no longer operate from the comfort of anonymity in her deceit. I wanted her world to contract in the most personal way, her circle shrinking, the people who made her lies plausible stepping back, the private corners where she hid her choices becoming less private. One evening, months into this slow unmaking, I invited her to dinner. The apartment smelled like lemon and rosemary. The table was simple. I had the ledger, the calendar entries, the receipts, the transcribed messages neatly ranged in a folder I put between us. I didn't shout. I read aloud, voice steady, the small, banal facts that made a case: a hotel name, a date, a taxi receipt. Each fact landed like a coin on a marble table. Her mask slipped, first confusion, then anger, then an attempt at the old routine: blame me. Make me the one who had manufactured this evidence. She tried to rewrite things the old way: gaslighting phrases, soft accusations, pleading turns. But the ledger refused reinterpretation. I didn't need to yell because the weight of the facts did the work. She became small in front of me, not because I made her small, but because she had made herself small through her decisions. I closed the folder and said, plainly, "You knew what you were doing." She cried, whispered apologies, made promises that had no purchase. I let her speak until the syllables were exhausted. Then I told her what would happen. I would not destroy her life, but I would not pretend it still included me. I would withdraw the accommodations she had counted on, the quick forgiveness, the elaborate explanations, the social smoothing. I told her I would live honestly and that she was on her own. The way she leaned forward, desperate for me to relent, was almost pathetic. I didn't. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. She lost certain privileges inside knowledge, an eager ear, the willingness to ignore small betrayals. Friends who had stood between us now stood at a distance, unsure where to place their loyalty. She began to sense the erosion. Her bravado faded into practical panic. Someone had stopped enabling her. What I gained was cleaner than revenge usually feels. I reclaimed my mornings, my sleep, my right to expect honesty. I discovered how thoroughly my identity had been entangled with hers, and learned how to become myself again, unshared. The ledger stayed where it belonged, and used as a weapon, but present as evidence that I had chosen truth over spectacle. Months later, we separated, not with a courtroom circus, but with quiet logistics. Keys exchanged on a table like the last polite gesture between strangers. She tried to make me the villain in the retelling, but people prefer a simple story, and hers required too many improvised facts. I moved out with a handful of boxes and a suitcase of lessons. Her world, which had once seemed boundless and cushioned by my tolerance, now felt narrower. That was the consequence I intended, not annihilation, but correction. I don't tell myself I was noble. I did cut close to something dark. Revenge stains your hands in ways you can't forget. But there is a satisfaction in reclaiming your life from someone who treated it like scenery. If she lost comforts she took for granted, that loss was directly her own doing. She broke what we had. I broke the illusion she had used to keep breaking it. In the end, the cruelest and most useful truth is this: you cannot control other people, but you can control the world you let them live in. I took back mine, and in doing so, I gave her a consequence that reflected the scale of her choice. It was not mercy. It was not malice. It was a boundary enforced with the quiet precision of someone who refused to be unseen.